Okay, welcome to a video tutorial about using the National Land Cover database and exploring land cover and land cover change. This is a video for Chapter 3 of the Advanced GIS book, the second practical application of that chapter, and I believe sixth overall in the book. So this is going to be a several part video. I believe we'll have four different steps. The first step, and this video, will be where to download National Land Cover data and how to subset that data into a smaller area of spatial interest to you. You can get the National Land Cover data on the whole kind of nation scale, or you can get it over a smaller area. I'll show you how to do that, and then I'll show you how to clip it, okay, in this video. And in video 2, we'll look at what that land cover data looks like, and in a particular watershed that we're studying for this chapter, which is the Spanish Fork watershed in Utah. After that, in video 3, we're going to identify areas of land cover change between two different years of land cover, and then explore how to understand what has changed and how to quantify that in video 4. Okay, so this is video 1, downloading the data. There is at least 2 different good places to get this data as of the time of this video. One good one is right here, is this U.S. Geological Survey Earth Explorer, which allows you to download data pretty easily. Note that this video could be impacted by the government shutdown because things aren't being monitored. If issues are running up against data servers and things, nobody's fixing it right now. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Although I have previously downloaded the data, so we'll be able to proceed regardless. The way things work on Earth Explorer is, first of all, you need to get a login, and I've already logged into my account here. So for this class, you should already hopefully have an Earth Explorer login. Earth Explorer has a lot of good data sets, in terms of remote sensing data especially, but also topography and kind of derived products such as land cover. Anyways, so what you want to do in Earth Explorer is define the area that you are interested in, and that is done right here. Well, I've zoomed into Utah. What we're going to study in Utah is this kind of area upstream of this river right here, and it's called the Spanish Fork River. And so I want to get a pretty big area of interest that I'm pretty certain covers the whole watershed. And so now I've got that. I can see Price, which is on the other side of, it's in the Colorado Plateau on the other side of the Wasatch. And I know this river is flowing here to the south. That one's flowing over there, and that's the Provo. So I've definitely got my whole watershed here. And so I like to just, use this map area as my area of interest, and it sets a border. You can, of course, adjust that if you're like, well, it's way too much. But it's a good starting point. I know I don't need to go further than over here. Okay, so that's a pretty safe region of interest for me. Okay, then I go over to data sets, and in this case, I'm interested in land cover and the annual National Land Cover collection. Okay, they offer land cover, land cover change, land cover confidence. You can look at impervious area of the surface, and so like whether or not it infiltrates water or runs off, and more. Those are all products of the annual National Land Cover Database collection. And so you can do land cover change through them. I'm going to have us in your lab 3, you're going to do it yourself. So we're just going to get land cover data. Okay. And so I've then selected the area. sometimes, when you're using this, you can also choose like when you're interested in, but this is going to be annual data. So it's only there's one data set per year, so it's not necessary to specify a specific month. Like if you're getting remote sensing data and you wanted only remote sensing from July, or if you're looking at snow, January, February, something like that. Okay, so then you hit results, and then you can see the footprints of the things that come up. Well, I overlap that footprint. Basically, they've tiled the land cover data. Okay, and so this tile looks pretty good because it's got Utah Lake in it. I'm a little worried that it might go out and the watershed could creep in over here, but that would be the one I would download. And so then you just go download, and it would give me a bulk download. It's fairly big, 163 megabytes, because I believe what it contains, and I haven't downloaded this particular one, but it contains all of the National Land Cover annual data for that tile. Since that data was produced, which I believe is like 1985 to 2024 or 2025. So 40 years of annual land cover data in that bundle. So you get one for each year. And so you just click, download, unzip, and then you have each of those separate tiles. So that's the Earth Explorer route, and that's great. A next route you can do is this Multi-Resolution Land Characteristics Consortium. Again, they give me a warning about the government shutdown. This is a viewer of land cover. So the cool thing, I guess, as you're downloading it here, you can see what is the land cover. So I can zoom in to where we're interested in here. We can see the urban area kind of shown here with dense urban area in red, less dense in pink, kind of agricultural areas, etc. And then forests, etc. And so here, it says you go over the right. I want data download. So a box has not been drawn yet. To draw one, please select the data download tool. So that's this one, and then rectangle. Okay, and so now I've got this little tool here. So if I want to do a rectangle or a polygon, so if I want to do a polygon, then I think I can click a few different times. Probably didn't need to do this because I'm plugging in. No, I guess I won't draw a rectangle. Okay, so there's my polygon. And then I want land cover. And then you tell it what years you want. So you don't have to get all 40 years if you don't want. But if you only want one particular year, you can't just say that, unfortunately. You kind of drag it. So if you wanted, I think what I said is I wanted between 2004 and 2024, so 20 years of data. And then you enter your email and click download, and then you get an email, I believe, when it's available with a download link. And you can get all those same data sets. I believe it might give you the exact polygon area. If not, it's going to give you the two tiles that it's been tiled into, as we saw on Earth Explorer, and you can download it that way. Okay, so I'm not going to show you that part of the downloads. You know how to download things. So we will see what we've got. So here was my download. It was called NLCD MHPI, whatever this means. And I've unzipped it already. And so this was the unzipped product. In there, we can see for each year, 2004, there's 3 data sets, 2005, or 3 files for each year. One is a GeoTIFF, and so that has spatial resolution, and then yeah, so each, that's why it's zipped. There's 3 files for each year, and your GIS is going to source all 3 of those files to work properly, most likely. And so in this example, I'm just going to use the oldest and the newest land cover, and we'll do a land cover difference off of those. So I'm going to open the 2004 and the 24 data. And then I think they've also got this layer file, and that might help you display it properly. Because there's kind of it's a classified data, and they have like a standard color classification for each land cover unit. So I'll go to the traditional route for loading this data. Okay, let's go to View, Catalog pane, Folders, add a folder connection, and go to that folder I was working in. Okay, so here's my folder, and I can see 2024, drag that in. Should load up here in a minute. And it did load, but yeah, it doesn't display properly at the moment. And I'll also grab 2024 and I'll drag that in. That loaded faster. And then what I'm going to do then to display it properly is I'll go to symbology. And I think I need to import from a layer file. So yeah, there's my layer. Let's see if that works. Okay, yeah. So here it is. Now this wasn't the exact polygon that I just created previously. Actually, when I found found this, it was a square that I utilized, and so that's why it doesn't look like that polygon shape that I just showed in the previous part of the video. So we need to go to this other data set and do the same thing, import from a layer file. So basically, this is a layer key, which gives you the color codes for each of the land cover classes. So 0 unclassified is no data, but then there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 18, 19, 20 different classes. So they're kind of color schemed by groups. So like in those last two, 90 and 95 is woody wetlands and emergent herbaceous wetlands, i.e. these two blues are wetlands. There's also other blues, which is open water, which we can see here at Utah Lake, and then adjacent to it, we have some wetlands, and then we have Strawberry Reservoir. And then perennial snow and ice, and it says perennial because these land cover data, these annual ones come from kind of during the growing season. So that would be areas of, basically permafrost and above, high altitude, high latitude. So we don't have that in this scene, most likely, unless there's a tiny bit up on High Cascades here. Not sure. No, that's classified as barren land, I believe. Gray, yeah, rock. So maybe there's some rock avalanches or rock glaciers, something like that. So yeah, that is our land cover that we're displaying. I think the top one is 2024. If I turn it off, we should see mostly the same, but probably little differences. Those would be the difference in the land cover. And so I guess what we see there, a lot of change. You have different amounts of water in the lakes and different amount of urbanization in the cities and agriculture in the valley. Those are big changes. Also forest up here versus something else is going on in this kind of area, right? If we watch, there's more forest and now more, I assume, grassland and herbaceous. So, I don't know if that's due to fires, but major changes. So this is interesting to see over this time period. And that was a big thing over there, and that's probably a fire. Huge forested area, gone. Okay, so this will be an interesting difference map. But what I promised was being able to kind of uh, basically take this and cut it to the area of interest, like a watershed. So let's go ahead and add in my watershed area. So my watershed polygon is here. I have a problem, don't I? Look at that. So my watershed goes outside of my area of interest. I'll solve that before the next video, but I'm not going to include it in the recording here. Instead, I'll just show you briefly how to clip this classified raster, one of them, and you would do it for both, to the watershed area. So first I'll make this an outline. Okay, so I need to add in more area down here. So let's, so then what you do is you go to geoprocessing, and the tool that you want is called Clip Raster. And that's under data management tools, raster within that, and then raster processing, clip raster. You could do this as a batch. For any batching, you just right click, say batch, and you can do it for both rasters at the same time. I'm not going to do that here because it's not what I want. And so, but if you are doing this for all 40 years, you definitely want to do that batch. Okay. So just for an example, here's 2024. And what we're going to do is we're going to clip it to the watershed polygon. And this mistake that students make is they're like, okay, I did that. I'm going to clip it to the watershed polygon. But you can see this box down here says, okay, here's the extent of your watershed polygon, and it's a rectangle. And you don't want it to be a rectangle, but rasters love to be rectangles, right? They're little boxes with lots of little pixels, i.e. more boxes. So you need to make sure to click Use Input Features for Clipping Geometry. So it'll be like a cookie cutter. And actually, we do need to change one thing here. In the land cover data, no data is supposed to be 0. It says no data. Let's make it 250. No, we want it to be 0. And okay, then we should be able to just go ahead and run this. I'm going to turn these off. Okay. And it seems to maybe have worked. Let's see. I have to change the symbology again, it seems like. Import from layer file. Yeah. Yeah, it did work. Okay, now it's all showing up. But you can see that if you don't have that layer file, it gets kind of frustrating. You have to keep doing this. You'd have to keep going in and using a consistent classification color for each class. Okay. And you'd probably need to tell it what it is too, and that would be super frustrating. So remember that layer file. And the layer file will work regardless of scale. It's just kind of like a symbology reference code. Okay, so that was where to download the data, Earth Explorer, or this other place right here, which I'm going to have to use here in a second. And it's called the MRLC, Multi-Resolution Land Characteristics Consortium. Those are two good places to download this data from. Unzip it, bring the data into ArcGIS, and then use clip raster and make sure to cookie cutter clip them out. Okay, so that's video 1. I'll get the rest of this and do video 2 here soon. See you then.